Liverpool's FA Cup disaster has sent shockwaves through the fan base, but could this shocking defeat actually help in the Premier League title race? Jamie Carragher seems to think so. Meanwhile, Federico Chiesa is under heavy fire after a performance that left fans furious, and Arne Slot has just given an important injury update on Joe Gomez after he limped off just 8 minutes into the game. What does this all mean for Liverpool's season? Stay with me, because you don't want to miss a second of this. All right, listen up, because we need to talk. That FA Cup game against Plymouth? An absolute nightmare. And to make things worse, Joe Gomez went down just 8 minutes in. Now, if you're anything like me, you felt that sinking feeling the moment he signaled to come off. The lad had only just returned from a hamstring injury, was handed the captain's armband, and then, boom, he's out again. Heartbreaking. And right now, no one really knows how bad it is. Arne Slot admitted after the match that he hasn't had the chance to check with Gomez properly yet, but one thing's clear, the defender didn't feel comfortable pushing through it. He knew if he sprinted, it could go from bad to worse. He didn't tear anything, at least that's what it looks like, but for him to pull up so early. Not a good sign. And it gets worse. Curtis Jones, who was supposed to be on the bench, told Slot in the morning that he wasn't fully recovered either. So suddenly, Liverpool had even more youngsters on the pitch than expected. Now, no excuses, because there was still plenty of quality out there. But let's be honest, that performance? Not good enough. A 1-0 loss to Plymouth, and Slot himself admitted there wasn't much to be happy about, except, maybe, for the fact that the lads kept fighting until the final whistle. But fight alone doesn't win games, and this was one Liverpool should never have lost. With Gomez out, young right-back Isaac Mabaya stepped in, his first senior appearance after a tough year battling injuries. A massive moment for him, but it forced a major reshuffle. James McConnell had to move into midfield, Wataru Endo dropped into centre-back, and suddenly the backline was Tsimikas, Kwanzaa, and a whole lot of improvisation. And look, Gomez's injury is a huge blow. The lad is Liverpool's longest-serving senior player right now, and to see him walk off the pitch looking that gutted? Not what you want to see. Worse still, he's now set to join Trent Alexander-Arnold in the treatment room. Now, Trent's thigh issue isn't as bad as first feared, so there's a chance he might make it back in time for the Merseyside derby against Everton. But still, the last thing this team needed right now was more injury problems. Slot made some big calls for this game, resting key players like Salah, Van Dijk, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, and Konate to keep them fresh for Everton. And fair enough, you can see why he did it. But this result? Unacceptable. There's no time to dwell on it though. The focus has to shift immediately to bouncing back in the Premier League, because the derby is massive. Alright, let's talk about this. Jamie Carragher has just hinted that Liverpool's chances of winning the Premier League might have actually improved after crashing out of the FA Cup. Now, I know, that loss to Plymouth? A disaster. No way around it. Losing 1-0 to the team sitting rock bottom of the Championship is not what anyone expected. But could it actually be a blessing in disguise? Liverpool came into that game flying, 6 wins in a row, fresh off a massive victory over Spurs in the Carabao Cup semi-final. But Arne Slot made a big call. 10 changes. Only Kieran Kelleher kept his spot, and while it was still a strong lineup, it was clear the priority was elsewhere. Federico Chiesa, Diogo Jota, Luis Diaz up top, Harvey Elliott in midfield, plenty of quality on the pitch. But Plymouth pulled off the unthinkable, winning with a second-half penalty. Now, with the FA Cup no longer in the equation, the focus shifts completely to the Premier League, and that's where Carragher's point comes in. After the game, a Liverpool fan posted on X, formerly Twitter, that the club's probability of winning the league had just gone up. And Carragher? Dropped a 100 emoji. No words, just that. Simple, but it speaks volumes. And look, he's not wrong. Less fixture congestion. More rest for key players. Full focus on the league. And let's not forget, Manchester City and Arsenal are still fighting on multiple fronts. If Liverpool can take advantage of that, this could actually work in their favour. Slot, for his part, stood by his decision. He said there were no regrets about resting his starters. According to him, this was a game for squad rotation. Players like Chiesa, Jota, and others need game time to be sharp for the final stretch of the season. And let's be honest, the style of play from Plymouth was always going to be tough, long balls, second balls, deep defending. It's the same approach United used against Liverpool earlier in the season, and even with the strongest 11, it's never easy to break down. Now, there's no time to dwell on it. The focus immediately shifts to the Premier League. And what's next? A huge Merseyside derby against Everton at Goodison Park. That's the real test. Now let's talk about Federico Chiesa, because he's taken a lot of heat after that Plymouth game, and honestly, it wasn't his best performance. There were big hopes for him going into this one. His 10th appearance, his 3rd start, a chance to really stake his claim under Arne Slot. But instead? A frustrating afternoon. Losing possession 29 times in one match? That's not what you expect from a player of his caliber. And Liverpool needed his creativity to break down Plymouth's low block, but it just didn't click. Instead of being the difference maker, he struggled to make an impact. Carragher, speaking on ITV Sport after the match, didn't hold back. She said Chiesa was poor, and that after everything he's been through with injuries, Liverpool fans want to see him succeed, but in this game? Nowhere near good enough. And look, she's got a point. Liverpool felt the absence of key senior players in that game. The squad depth is there, but when the likes of Salah, Van Dijk, Szoboszlai, and Konate aren't in the 11, it's just not the same. Now, does one bad game define Chiesa? Of course not. The guy is still working his way back to full sharpness, and we know what he's capable of. But this was a match where he needed to step up and make a statement, and instead, it's just raised more questions about his form. The FA Cup dream is over, but Liverpool still have 3 competitions to focus on, and Chiesa has time to prove he belongs in this team. But with the pressure of the Premier League title race heating up, he's going to have to do better. What do you think? Is it just a rough patch, or should Liverpool fans be concerned? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe, because there's plenty more drama to come this season.